What's up guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, with a look at the new MacBook Pro with the Retina display. So this is Apple's latest and greatest next generation MacBook Pro, which is to say that the previous generation, 13 and 50 inch, are still available in the Apple Store. So those have received some spec upgrades, but otherwise carry over mostly unchanged. So really this is the new hotness at Apple in terms of their MacBook Pro lineup. So this is only available in a 15-inch configuration, has a standard 2.3 gigahertz quad-core i7 processor. This is the new Ivy Bridge processor. Standard 8 gigs of RAM, a standard 256 gig SSD. We also get 2 GPUs, the Intel Graphics HD 4000 processor, and the dedicated 1 gigahertz GPU, which is the GeForce 6050M by NVIDIA. So you get quite a bit of graphics processor in this computer, and that's largely to power the hallmark feature of this device, which is that Retina display. So we get a Retina display with a resolution of 2880 by 1800. So that gives us 220 ppi. That's quadruple what the previous generation or current generation, cheaper generation 15-inch MacBook Pro gives you now. Now that base configuration starts off at $2199, but you can go up from there. You can get a 2.7 gigahertz quad-core processor. You can upgrade the RAM to 16 gigs. And you can upgrade the SSD to 768 gigs. So let's take a look around the box. Of course, you see MacBook Pro, the Apple logo, MacBook Pro, the Apple logo. All right, so we get the point. And we have our information here, which tells us the configuration, but I don't really want to share that because it contains my serial. So let's go ahead and crack this open and see what we get in the box. All right, so let's lift the lid. And there is the MacBook Pro. So now we have this handy tab to lift up the 4.5-pound MacBook Pro. We're going to set that aside for just a minute while we take a look at the accessories. So here we have a packet designed by Apple in California. I'm going to crack that open. And it looks like I have one of the accessories I ordered here. This is a special configuration because I ordered another cable, but here we have Hello, which is just standard information on how to use the multi-touch glass trackpad, our accessories, the keyboard, also some line features here. So if you look at the back, we see some of the line features. Now this does ship initially with Lion for the first month, and then once Mountain Lion launches, you get a free upgrade. We also have the license and user agreement information, nothing really interesting there, and of course Apple stickers. We have a cleaning cloth to keep your MacBook Pro clean with Apple branding. And we have the special accessory here, which I custom ordered. So this is the Thunderbolt to Ethernet adapter. That's because the MacBook Pro does not have a built-in Ethernet port because it's too thin. So they had to come up with this solution. So this is an extra cost option. You can also get a FireWire 800 adapter to Thunderbolt, but that's shipping at the end of the summer. Also included in the box is our 85-watt power adapter and the cabling. This has the new MagSafe 2 connector, so let's just take this out to take a look. So here we have the extension cable. We'll put that aside for just a minute. And we have our new MagSafe 2 connector. Again, this magnetically adheres to the MacBook Pro's power port, so it's easy to take on and off, so it doesn't damage or pull the MacBook Pro off the desk if you snag the cable. And we'll take a look at that in just a minute once we connect it up. So here we have our 85-watt power adapter. Again, with these folding prongs, at least in North America, you can pop this off to add our extension cable. So here's our extension cable. Just slide it on, pop it into place. And of course, if you travel internationally, you can put on the international adapter depending on where you are, either in the UK or Europe. We also have these prongs that fold out, just as we're familiar with, to wrap up the cable to keep it nice and tidy. Now quickly taking a look at the MagSafe 2 connector, you can see this is made entirely out of metal with an LED indicator on the top and bottom. And when you bring it close to the port, it automatically connects thanks to magnets, and you'll see the LED indicator light up, amber for charging and green when it's fully charged. Alright, enough with the accessories. Let's go ahead and unpack the MacBook Pro. So we're just going to pull this tab to break the seal, and we're going to slide it out of this envelope. I'm going to flip it over, take a look at the inside, and there is our piece of paper to protect the keyboard and glass. And now let's take a look around. Now taking a look at that very thin MacBook Pro again, this is only 0.71 inches thick. This is thinner than the thickest point of the 13-inch MacBook Air. If we look at the side, you can see all of our I/O ports. So we have that MagSafe 2 connector, along with 2 Thunderbolt ports, a USB 3.0 port, a headphone jack, which also doubles as a line input and microphone input. Now on the other side, we have another USB 3.0 connector, an HDMI port, which is a first for Apple's MacBook lineup. They've had one on the Mac Mini for a while. We also have an SD XC card slot for a full-size SD card. Now taking a look at the underside of the MacBook Pro, we have a single piece of metal held on with these pentalobular screws just like the MacBook Air. So really this isn't designed to be removed by the user, but you certainly can buy a screwdriver to do so. Now the internals of this thing are pretty much set in stone. So we have a battery that's glued to the chassis. We have RAM that's soldered onto the motherboard. So really this isn't designed to be easily user upgradable. So if you want to configure your MacBook Pro to your desired specifications, you're probably going to want to do it when you order it in the Apple Store. So along the side we also have these new ventilation grates here, which is part of the new ventilation system from Apple, which uses a fan with asymmetrical blades, which reduces noise. It basically spreads the noise over a wider spectrum so it's less perceptible. We still have that hinge with the ventilation along the inside of it. So if you look down the hinge, you'll see plenty of ventilation, which operates no matter what position you have your screen in. Now on the top, of course, we have our lighted Apple logo, so let's go ahead and open the lid and take a look around. Now before I boot up the device, I just want to point out that the screen is very anti-reflective, so they've managed to reduce glare by 75%, something like that. So even though this is still a glossy screen, glare is substantially reduced. It's definitely very, very effective. Now a good comparison of that is looking at the previous generation 13-inch MacBook Pro versus the new one with Retina display. So you can see the reflection of the keyboard, including my hand, but on the MacBook Pro you can barely see it. It looks pretty amazing. Now taking a look at the keyboard, we have a standard Apple keyboard full size with the function controls at the top. Really nothing much has changed here. You can see it's still flush with the metal body, so if you look on edgewise you can see they sort of disappear into the side, so you can see they're recessed here. So again, just a chiclet style keyboard, backlit of course. We also have our speakers. So we have stereo speakers. Apple says this is the best speaker system they've ever designed for the MacBook. You can see if you look at the grills themselves, they're sort of etched into the unibody metal. So it looks pretty nice. They're pretty rugged and sturdy. We also have dual microphones in here for better audio recording. Now we still have our oversized multi-touch glass trackpad. Now just to show you the hinge with the ventilation system, again, if you look down you can see the milled metal. They've actually milled channels into the chassis to ventilate the body of the MacBook Pro. It actually looks kind of cool. Alright, so before we take a look at the display and the other things that are bolted into it, let's turn it on. And one of the things that Apple has borrowed from the MacBook Air for the MacBook Pro is a power button included on the keyboard. So no longer a dedicated power button, we have one built right in. So let's tap that and turn it on. Now a few things about this display. Again, it's 2880 by 1800 for 220 ppi. This is an IPS display, so it looks good off-axis. So definitely better than what most MacBooks have had previously. We also have a 720p HD FaceTime camera up here along with an ambient light sensor and an LED indicator. So that will let you know if the camera is operating. So let's go ahead and set this up for the first time. Alright, so I've gone through the basic setup process of logging into my iTunes account, setting the name and password, and now you just need to take a picture. So let's take a snapshot. Smile. Alright, that wasn't a smile, but that'll do anyway, so let's continue. You can also zoom in and crop, I guess. But let's go to next. Select my time zone. I'm in Rochester Hills, Michigan, so it knows that. Now it just wants to confirm that I know how to use the trackpad, so let's do that. And click Start Using Mac OS X Lion. So I'm going to log into my password, which I set during setup. There it is. Next stop is iCloud, so it wants me to log into my iCloud account. Now what iCloud will do is sync my bookmarks, calendars, and contacts from my account, so it'll set up automatically, and I want to activate Find My Mac, so if it gets stolen or lost, you can use GPS or other location services to find my Mac, and I can also connect to it to either set a password, lock it, wipe it, that sort of thing. So let's go to next, and allow that feature. So we're done, and my information is transferring. In fact, it's letting me know that I got some calendar alerts. Wow, so that display definitely is very impressive. It's very bright, very vivid. The contrast is very dark. I've definitely never seen a display on a MacBook that looks this vivid. It definitely stands out right away. Definitely a big deal, so it looks great. Now with the camera basically on top of the keyboard, we can take a really close look at the display resolution. So you can see that all the icons are very smooth, especially round icons. Like the circle here, you can see there's no jaggies or jagged edges. Now if we compare that to the MacBook Pro, you can see there's a huge difference there. There's a lot less detail, a lot more obvious pixels, a lot more jagged edges. Not just the resolution is improved, but also the color and contrast. It makes a big difference overall. It's not just about resolution, it's also about the quality of the color, the contrast, the off-axis viewing. Huge improvement with the new display. Now another big difference here is off-axis viewing, which is kind of important at least when you're folding the MacBook Pro. So for example, if you want to control glare and tilt the MacBook down, well, looks like the MacBook Pro holds its color and contrast a lot better than the 13-inch MacBook Pro. So if you tilt it back up, you can see they pretty much hold side to side pretty well. But if you change the angle at all, you can see that the MacBook Pro with its non-IPS display loses quite a bit of color and contrast fidelity. Now just to show you some of the functions up here, we have our screen brightness controller on F1 and F2. F3 is our mission control, which lets us see everything all at once. We have our app launcher here. We have our keyboard brightness controls, our media controls, along with mute, volume up, volume down, and our power key. Now also taking a look at that backlit keyboard, which again is pretty familiar. Nothing really new here. Looks about the same. This works with the ambient light sensor, so it will only turn on if you need it, and you can also override that. And you have your manual controls here for turning it up or turning it all the way down. Now if we look at the previous generation versus the next generation, you can see that a few things have changed here in terms of ports. So we have an Ethernet connector and a FireWire 800 connector, which is now gone because the chassis is too thin, but you can buy Thunderbolt adapters for both ports. We also have a thinner MagSafe 2 connector. So this is MagSafe 1, this is MagSafe 2, so it's thinner and a bit wider, again to accommodate that thinner design. We also have USB. We have two ports on the MacBook Pro, one on either side. On the new MacBook Pro, and we have two on the same side. This was just USB 2.0, not 3.0. Same with the SD card slot, it's on the other side. But we also lose this indicator here, which tells us the battery indicator or battery charge when you press the button. We also lose an IR blaster and an LED indicator here. So as you can see, the MacBook Pro here is in sleep and it blinks. We also have an IR blaster here, which allows you to use a remote control. The new MacBook Pro does not have those features. Now looking at the other side, the old MacBook Pro has an optical drive and a Kensington lock, which the new MacBook Pro loses both, so we don't have either. Instead, we have an HDMI connector, and we have the SD card slot on this side, as well as another USB 3.0 port. Now just to show you the comparison between the previous generation MacBook Pro and the new MacBook Pro, obviously there's a big difference in thickness, so they've been able to reduce the thickness by about 25%. Now overall, it's actually thinner than the MacBook Air. So here we have an 11-inch MacBook Air versus the 15-inch MacBook Pro, and it's just slightly thinner at its thickest point. But the MacBook Air has that tapered wedge design, so it is thinner at its thinnest edge. Now another interesting detail here is the fact that they've removed MacBook Pro from the front of the screen. Instead, it's only on the bottom of the device. So I guess that's in order to accommodate this thinner design with this hinge and keep the screen as edge to edge as possible. Alrighty guys, so that's going to do it for me in this video. I will have more on the MacBook Pro, so stay tuned, and until then, see you in the next one.